tensions have emerged between former President Donald Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson, as Trump appears to have withdrawn support for the embattled Speaker during a critical period. Republican lawmakers have expressed frustration with what they describe as Trump's disengagement during a time when Johnson faces significant challenges to his leadership position. The relationship between the two figures, once characterized by Johnson's consistent support for Trump's agenda, has reportedly cooled as internal party divisions intensify. Republican strategists and party members have voiced concerns about Trump's apparent unwillingness to intervene on Johnson's behalf. Several GOP sources indicate that Trump has shown minimal interest in the political fortunes of allies who previously championed his policies. This shift has created uncertainty within the party about the extent of Trump's continued influence over Republican leadership decisions. The situation reflects broader dynamics within the Republican Party as it navigates competing factions and priorities. Johnson, who has maintained alignment with Trump's positions on numerous issues, now finds himself facing opposition without the backing he might have expected from the former president. Political analysts suggest this development could signal a recalibration of power relationships within the GOP. The implications extend beyond individual political careers, raising questions about party unity and strategic direction heading into the upcoming election cycle. As Republicans work to maintain their narrow House majority, the absence of clear support from influential party figures has created additional complications for leadership stability and legislative planning. Recent federal actions in Fulton County, Georgia, have drawn attention to the administration's approach to election-related matters. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard visited the county to oversee operations related to ballot examination, an action that administration officials state was undertaken at the president's direct request. This represents an unusual level of personal involvement by the president in federal operations at local election sites. Critics have characterized the actions as overreach, particularly given Fulton County's significance in Georgia's political landscape and its historical importance to the civil rights movement. The county, which encompasses parts of former Congressman John Lewis's district, has been the subject of ongoing scrutiny related to the 2020 election results. Administration officials maintain that the oversight is necessary to ensure election integrity and address concerns about voting procedures. The development has prompted responses from local officials and advocacy groups who view the federal presence as an unprecedented intervention in state election administration. Legal experts have debated the scope of federal authority in such matters, with opinions divided along partisan lines about the appropriateness and legality of the actions. The incident has become a focal point in broader discussions about federal-state relationships in election management and the administration's priorities regarding voting systems. Civil rights organizations have announced plans to mobilize voter participation in response, viewing the federal actions as motivation to increase engagement in upcoming elections. The situation continues to evolve as legal and political stakeholders assess the implications of the federal presence in local election operations. Veteran Republican strategist Karl Rove has issued warnings about the party's prospects in upcoming Senate elections, expressing concern that the GOP could face significant challenges in maintaining its majority. In an appearance on Fox News, Rove outlined several races that present vulnerabilities for Republicans, emphasizing the need for improved messaging on economic issues to strengthen the party's electoral position. Rove specifically highlighted Maine as a critical contest where Senator Susan Collins faces re-election. He noted the unusual voting patterns from the previous presidential election, where nearly 1 in 5 Maine voters supported a Democratic presidential candidate while voting for Collins, who won by 9 points even as Trump lost the state by a similar margin. This crossover voting dynamic creates both opportunities and risks for the incumbent senator. North Carolina emerged as another area of concern in Rove's analysis. With Senator Tom Tillis retiring, Republican candidate Michael Whatley faces a competitive race against former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, who currently leads in polling averages. Rove characterized this race as particularly challenging for Republicans, given Cooper's name recognition and previous electoral success in the state. Additional battleground states identified include Michigan, where Republicans see potential pickup opportunities, and Georgia and Alaska, which Rove described as more difficult contests for the party. The strategic assessment reflects growing anxiety within Republican circles about the political environment heading into the election cycle. Party officials are working to address these vulnerabilities through targeted messaging and resource allocation, though concerns persist about the overall national political climate and its impact on down-ballot races. Questions have arisen regarding Donald Trump's level of involvement in supporting Republican candidates and party operations ahead of the midterm elections. Despite maintaining a substantial campaign fund exceeding $300 million, Trump has not authorized spending initiatives or issued endorsements for several key GOP contenders in competitive battleground states, according to sources familiar with campaign operations. This lack of engagement has created challenges for Republican fundraising efforts, forcing donors to allocate resources to expensive primary contests in states including Texas and Georgia. Party strategists had anticipated more active participation from Trump in candidate recruitment and financial support, given his continued influence within the Republican base and his substantial fundraising capabilities. White House officials, speaking on background, have suggested that Trump appears unconcerned about the prospect of Republicans losing their House majority. One official noted that Trump has weathered previous periods of Democratic congressional control, including 2 impeachment proceedings, and may view another such period as manageable. This perspective reportedly conflicts with the views of some advisers who see the midterm elections as critical to the administration's legislative agenda. The situation has been particularly evident in Texas, where Trump has been reluctant to endorse Senator John Cornyn, who faces a primary challenge from Attorney General Ken Paxton, a figure popular with the party's more conservative wing. This reluctance has contributed to increased spending in primary races, diverting resources that might otherwise support general election campaigns. Republican officials continue to work on strategies to maximize their electoral prospects, though the uncertainty surrounding Trump's level of involvement remains a complicating factor in their planning efforts. The current political environment has highlighted the importance of media platforms in shaping public discourse and political narratives. Conservative media figures maintain significant presence across various platforms, including social media channels such as TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Commentators, including Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly, have built substantial audiences through these platforms, creating influential channels for political messaging. Progressive voices have been working to establish comparable media infrastructure, with figures such as Don Lemon and Brian Tyler Cohen developing independent platforms to reach audiences. New media ventures have emerged with the goal of providing alternative perspectives and coverage of political developments, particularly congressional activities and campaign developments. The asymmetry in media reach between conservative and progressive platforms has been a subject of analysis among political strategists and communications professionals. The right's investment in media infrastructure over several decades has created established networks with significant audience reach, prompting discussions about the need for comparable development on the left side of the political spectrum. Emerging content creators and political commentators, including Adam Mockler and other new voices, represent efforts to build next-generation media platforms that can compete for audience attention. These initiatives focus on creating engaging content while maintaining journalistic standards and providing analysis of current events. The development of new channels and platforms represents an ongoing shift in how political information is distributed and consumed, with implications for public opinion formation and political engagement. Audience support through subscriptions and content sharing plays a crucial role in the viability of these emerging media ventures. Recent polling data reveals significant shifts in public perception of President Trump's handling of economic issues. During his first term, the economy represented one of Trump's strongest policy areas, with net positive approval ratings. Current polling shows a dramatic reversal, with economic approval ratings now substantially negative, reflecting a 26-point decline in public sentiment on this issue. The polling data indicates that 52% of Americans believe the Trump administration's policies have negatively impacted the economy, while only 28% perceive improvement. This represents a complete inversion from early 2018 figures, when 40% of respondents viewed economic conditions as improved under Trump's policies and 22% saw deterioration. The shift is particularly notable given that voters consistently identify the economy as their primary concern. Even among Republican voters, support for Trump's economic management has softened, with only 57% expressing positive views of the administration's economic impact. This represents lower than typical support within the president's own party, suggesting broader concerns about economic conditions that transcend partisan identification. Political analysts note that such intra-party skepticism typically indicates significant political vulnerability. The change in economic sentiment appears to be driving overall presidential approval ratings downward, according to polling analysts. When voters perceive that the president is failing on their top priority issue, it creates challenges for the administration's political position. The administration has emphasized various economic initiatives and defended its policies, but public perception has not yet reflected improvement. These numbers have implications for both the administration's political standing and Republican electoral prospects in upcoming contests, as economic conditions and voters' assessments of responsibility for those conditions typically play decisive roles in election outcomes. Immigration policy has traditionally represented a key issue for President Trump's political brand, alongside economic management. Both topics were central to his 2024 campaign messaging and remain focal points of public policy debate. Recent developments have complicated the political dynamics surrounding these issues, with polling showing shifts in public opinion that present challenges for the administration. The administration has pursued various immigration policy initiatives, including enhanced border enforcement measures and changes to asylum procedures. These actions have generated both support from those who favor stricter immigration controls and criticism from advocacy groups and some lawmakers who view the policies as excessive or improperly implemented. The political debate over immigration continues to evolve as different stakeholders assess the impacts of policy changes. Public opinion on immigration remains divided along partisan lines, though specific policy proposals sometimes generate broader agreement or opposition than overall approaches. The complexity of immigration policy, involving security concerns, economic impacts, humanitarian considerations, and administrative capacity, makes it a challenging issue for sustained political consensus. Different communities and regions experience immigration-related issues differently, contributing to varied perspectives on appropriate policy responses. The intersection of immigration and economic concerns creates additional political dynamics as voters evaluate how immigration policy affects labor markets, public services, and community resources. The administration's handling of these interconnected issues contributes to its overall political standing. As the election cycle progresses, immigration policy is expected to remain a significant topic of political discussion and debate, with both parties seeking to position themselves favorably on an issue where public opinion varies across different demographic groups and geographic regions. The political landscape heading into the upcoming election cycle presents both parties with strategic challenges and opportunities. Republicans face the task of defending their narrow House majority while contending with internal divisions and questions about party leadership and direction. Democrats are working to capitalize on shifts in public sentiment regarding economic conditions and other policy matters. Polling trends and political indicators suggest a competitive electoral environment with multiple factors influencing voter attitudes. Economic conditions, satisfaction with government performance, and views on specific policy issues all contribute to the electoral dynamics. Both parties are conducting extensive voter outreach and organizing efforts, recognizing that mobilization and turnout will play crucial roles in determining outcomes. The role of individual political figures, including President Trump, in supporting or hindering party candidates remains a subject of analysis. The extent to which national political figures engage in campaign activities, fundraising, and candidate endorsements can influence both primary and general election contests. Strategic decisions about resource allocation, messaging priorities, and candidate recruitment continue to evolve as parties respond to changing political conditions. Local and state-level factors also contribute significantly to electoral outcomes, with regional issues and candidate characteristics playing important roles alongside national trends. Political organizations on both sides are investing in voter registration, persuasion efforts, and turnout operations. As the election approaches, the effectiveness of these various strategies will become clearer. The results will have implications not only for congressional composition, but also for the political direction of the country and the ability of different political factions to advance their policy priorities through the legislative process. Both parties recognize the stakes involved and continue to adjust their approaches based on new information and changing circumstances.